The Babylonian Empire was once a land of scholars, warriors, and visionaries, but no ruler cast a larger shadow over its history than Nebuchadnezzar II. A man both feared and admired, he was the conqueror of nations, the destroyer of Jerusalem, and the architect of one of the greatest cities the world had ever seen. His reign was one of power, ambition, and cruelty, an era that reshaped the ancient world. Nebuchadnezzar's rise to power began with the fall of the once mighty Neo-Assyrian Empire. Under his father, Nabopolassar, the Babylonians seized control of Mesopotamia, but it was Nebuchadnezzar who would take this new empire to its peak. Born in 642 BC, his very name was a declaration of divine favor. "O Nabu, protect my firstborn son." Nabu, the god of wisdom and writing, was the son of Marduk, the supreme deity of Babylon. From the start, Nebuchadnezzar was seen as a ruler destined for greatness. As crown prince, he proved himself a formidable warrior, leading campaigns to secure Babylon's dominance. In 609 BC, he played a crucial role in the conquest of Haran, where the last remnants of the Assyrian Empire were crushed. 2 years later, he marched alongside his father into the northern mountains, proving his skill in battle and his ability to command troops. But his true test came in 605 BC, when Egypt, seeking to reclaim lost Assyrian territories, clashed with Babylon at the Battle of Carchemish. Pharaoh Necho II led a vast army, determined to challenge Babylonian power. But Nebuchadnezzar outmaneuvered and overwhelmed the Egyptians, delivering a devastating defeat that would echo through history. This battle not only solidified Babylon as the dominant force in the region, but also marked Nebuchadnezzar as a military genius. Yet, just as he stood victorious, word reached him: his father was dead. Without hesitation, he raced back to Babylon to secure his throne before his younger brother could claim it. What happened to his brother remains a mystery, but he was never mentioned in historical records again. With the throne now his, Nebuchadnezzar turned his sights to expansion. He stormed through the Levant, capturing cities and forcing kingdoms into submission. In 604 BC, the city of Ashkelon fell, its treasures looted, its streets left in ruin. Even the kingdom of Judah, ruled by King Jehoiakim, submitted to Babylonian rule. But Nebuchadnezzar's ambitions knew no limits. In 601 BC, he made a bold move, an invasion of Egypt itself. This campaign, however, ended in disaster. The Egyptian forces held their ground, and the Babylonian army suffered heavy losses. The failure was a blow to Nebuchadnezzar's image, and his vassal states saw weakness. Rebellions erupted across the empire, and among them was Judah. King Jehoiakim, believing Egypt would aid him, defied Babylon. But help never came. In 598 BC, Nebuchadnezzar marched on Jerusalem, and after a brutal siege, the city fell. Jehoiakim died, and his successor, Jehoiakim, surrendered. Thousands of Jews were taken captive and exiled to Babylon, a fate that would be repeated on an even greater scale years later. Judah remained under Babylonian control, but unrest simmered beneath the surface. In 589 BC, King Zedekiah, installed by Nebuchadnezzar, made the fateful decision to rebel. This time, the Babylonian king would show no mercy. His army returned to Jerusalem, and for 2 years the city endured an unrelenting siege. In 587 BC, the walls were finally breached, and what followed was total annihilation. The Temple of Solomon, the most sacred place in all of Judah, was reduced to rubble. The city was burned to the ground, and another wave of exiles was taken to Babylon. This destruction was so devastating that it became one of the most significant moments in Jewish history, fulfilling biblical prophecies and forever altering their faith. To the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar was not a tyrant, but a godlike ruler. His victories brought untold wealth to Babylon, and he used it to transform the city into a marvel of the ancient world. Towering walls, golden statues, and grand temples made it a city unlike any other. One of his greatest projects was the Ishtar Gate, a breathtaking entrance adorned with deep blue tiles and images of powerful beasts, leading into the heart of Babylon. But the most legendary creation attributed to him was the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It is said that Nebuchadnezzar built the gardens for his wife, Amytis, who longed for the lush greenery of her homeland. If they truly existed, the gardens would have been an engineering marvel, featuring a complex irrigation system that brought water up to its towering terraces. However, some historians argue that the gardens may have been a myth, or that they belonged to another city altogether. Despite his military and architectural achievements, Nebuchadnezzar's reign was not without darkness. The Bible paints him as a ruthless, oppressive king, a man who brought suffering upon the Jewish people. In the book of Daniel, he is depicted as a ruler who, in his arrogance, was struck down by God, losing his mind and wandering the wilderness like a wild beast. William Blake's famous painting captures this image, a mad king, crawling on all fours, consumed by insanity. Yet, Babylonian records tell a different story. They speak of a ruler devoted to his people, strengthening his empire and ensuring its prosperity. He ruled for an astonishing 43 years, longer than any Babylonian king before or after him. But even the greatest empires fall. After his death in 562 BC, his son, Marduk, took the throne, only to be assassinated 2 years later. In less than 2 decades, Babylon would crumble under the might of Cyrus the Great, absorbed into the Persian Empire. But how did the mighty Babylonian Empire, built on the conquests and ambitions of Nebuchadnezzar, collapse so quickly? The answer lies in a series of weak rulers, internal strife, and the emergence of a new superpower, the Persian Empire. After Nebuchadnezzar's death in 562 BC, his son Marduk took the throne, but he was nothing like his father. Ancient sources describe him as an ineffective ruler, one who lacked the military prowess and political cunning necessary to hold an empire together. His reign lasted only 2 years before he was assassinated in a palace coup, replaced by his brother-in-law Neriglissar. Neriglissar, a military man, tried to restore some of Babylon's lost strength, leading campaigns against the Anatolian kingdom of Cilicia. But his rule was short-lived. After just 4 years, he died, and the throne passed to his young son, Marduk. The Babylonian elites saw him as weak, and within months, they overthrew him in yet another coup. The next king, Nabonidus, would be the last ruler of Babylon. He was an outsider, possibly of Assyrian descent, who did not have the full support of Babylon's powerful priests and nobles. Unlike Nebuchadnezzar, who strengthened the empire through military dominance and grand architectural projects, Nabonidus focused on religious reforms that alienated the people. He favored the moon god Sin over Marduk, Babylon's traditional patron deity, creating unrest among the priesthood. To make matters worse, Nabonidus spent much of his reign away from Babylon, residing in the distant Arabian city of Tema. With the king absent, governance fell to his son, Belshazzar, who proved incompetent in managing the empire's affairs. Corruption spread, Babylon's economy weakened, and the once feared military began to decline. Meanwhile, in the east, a new power was rising. Cyrus the Great of Persia had already conquered Media and Lydia, and he now turned his attention to Babylon. In 539 BC, he launched his invasion. Babylon, once the unshakable fortress of Mesopotamia, barely put up a fight. Cyrus's army cleverly diverted the Euphrates River, allowing his soldiers to march through the dried riverbed and enter the city without resistance. The fall of Babylon was swift. Belshazzar was killed, and Nabonidus was captured. The mighty empire that Nebuchadnezzar had built was no more. With Babylon under Persian control, Cyrus declared himself the rightful ruler, adopting a policy of tolerance that won him the loyalty of the people. He allowed the Jewish exiles to return to their homeland, marking the end of the Babylonian captivity. Though Nebuchadnezzar's empire had vanished, his legacy endured. His military conquests, architectural marvels, and the destruction of Jerusalem ensured his place in history. His name would be remembered in both fear and admiration, a king whose ambitions reshaped the ancient world, but whose empire could not outlive him. Even today, the ruins of Babylon stand as a reminder of its once glorious past. The Ishtar Gate, with its brilliant blue tiles, survives in museums, while the stories of Nebuchadnezzar continue to echo through history, proving that even the greatest of kings cannot escape the passage of time.